You just whatever one you think. Well,
Oh no, dude, you said the pity one.
okay, let's do it. That's what we're doing.
He said he wore pitties in.
Yeah.
We can't.
I'll have to
not.
find the picture. We learned about those like goofy like 3/4 helmets and like we get those and pit vipers. That's what we're like right on the Harley.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the PR podcast. We got Mike Jones on today, and we're, as you can see us, we're doing shit a little differently today, which is fun. This is our first video episode, and we figure why not do it with whiskey and whatever. So he rolled in with some pitties today, so we had to use the Whistle Pig limited edition pity vipers, and it is actually pretty good. So
right.
I'm excited that you picked that one because it's actually one that we bought for whiskey and whatever, and we just never used it yet. So
we're gonna use it today.
When I was talking to Mike, we were thinking about just doing some fun, like joking around about life, and like I kind of figured like School of Hard Knocks. You know, when you started talking about that, it was like, yeah, I have a very similar upbringing with just weird random shit and had to grow up different because of it. So I think that'll be a fun episode. Super excited to get into it. But yeah, for everyone that doesn't know, you kind of give them a little quick who you are, all that good stuff.
Yeah, Mike Jones. I've been fighting for 14 years.
14 years. Nice.
14 years.
Nice.
2010, I guess, was my first fight. Just been athletic my whole life. Been playing sports.
Yeah, and then like between Fierce, you've done BKFC stuff.
Yeah, I fought BKFC this last summer. I fought for LFA a few times. I've traveled to New Jersey and fought for CFFC. Been like CBS Sports. Been a couple fights on Fight Pass, UFC Fight Pass.
There we go.
Been kind of
nice.
all over.
That's the way to do it. Right, well, I'm super excited to get into the story, but first let's get into a little whiskey here. So usually we have like the big mic that I can pop this into, but I'm going to try to get it into my lav mic here, see if I can. Hopefully you guys could hear that. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how big of a like whiskey connoisseur are you? Are you like 1 being like, I only drink Jack and Coke, 10 like you can really smell notes and know some stuff?
I'm gonna give it like a 4 or 5.
A 4?
Like
that's fair.
I'm pretty trashy. Like,
I'm pretty trashy.
I like whiskey. It's my drink of choice. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. As long as you don't shoot it, we're good.
Yeah, I don't do shots. I'm 33, man. I'm getting too old for shots.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not cool like that.
Well, cheers, buddy. All right, well. Perfectly, I got a gnat to fly in immediately as I drank it. So that's a little extra protein, but I'm all right with it.
Might as well.
Anything you taste off the get-go? Do you ever do that when you drink whiskey? Do you do taste and stuff? Nah.
Like if it's like smooth and don't make me, or make me like, I like it, you know.
Nice. I definitely get a little honey. Well, some of the fun stuff with this Whistle Pig, I was telling you about, like, I was like, oh damn, I'm definitely gonna buy that. And as soon as I looked it up, the price was $69.69. I was like, that's the most pit viper thing.
I would have bought it. I would have bought it just for that.
But yeah, I mean, if you guys have had Whistle Pig before, they have so they pot still things, so it's a little different. You don't get any of that metallic taste. It tastes almost a little bit more like it tastes more like a pot. Like you get a little bit more mineral out of it. It has a little bit like it's a little drier. I don't know if you've noticed that.
I mean, it's good.
Yeah.
I know I had a buddy, one of my good friends. It was his birthday a few months ago, and he had a party for him, and he's like way in, like he can like he'll tell you every little note. Like he's
that's
so
me.
I was at the store, and I was at the store and I found some. I don't even know if it was like a 12-year or whatever age. I was like, this one's expensive. He'll like it, and then I get it, and he was just like
stoked on it.
Yeah, he was like, "What? Let's do it." Yeah, he
that's right.
So
very cool. So yeah, before you were fighting, so what age were you when you started fighting?
19. I did my first fight. Well, yeah, 19, 20ish, somewhere around there. I was in Gillette, Wyoming, of all places.
Gillette, Wyoming.
Yeah, northeast corner of Gillette. We were like right there on the South Dakota border.
Is that where the Razors are from?
I'm not sure.
I would guess.
Probably, yeah. It was like you had Sturgis, South Dakota was probably 45 minutes to an hour away. Rapid City, where you had like the president fate, Mount Rushmore.
Yeah,
that was like we were like an hour and a half from there.
Nice,
so.
right on.
Yeah, Wild West up there.
And so you rode motorcycles before that, or?
Yeah.
So you were saying like, did you like race?
Yeah, so I raced motocross. Like,
nice.
Probably started when I was 12, and yeah, I raced. Started later, but like most kids, they start racing at like 12.
Yeah, super
5, 6 years old. I started like I was 12 and had a knack for it, and my parents kind of sacrificed everything, and we raced every weekend. We'd travel over. I went to like Oklahoma, raced big nationals, and got a race against like when we were kids against like Dean Wilson, Justin Barr, the guys that are racing like Supercross now, like Malcolm Stewart.
Okay.
Remember that guy like lapping me in one of the races, like, and now you see him on TV. That's like, while we were watching Supercross last night, and the dude was.
That's cool.
Yeah, like top 10 in the world. Like, so I got to race against those guys growing up. Like, it was just growing up. Yeah, motorcycles was my thing. Then.
That's funny.
So, yeah.
More injuries doing that or fighting?
Way worse riding dirt bikes. Like, it was. I don't know. It's different nowadays. Like, I probably have. I don't know how many concussions I got from. I got knocked out cold more than once. Like, dislocated shoulders, broke my wrist. Like, it was.
Yeah.
I've seen people getting life flighted more from that sport than fighting's way safer.
100%.
Way safer.
I get that even with my wife when like we were first meeting, she's like, "Oh my God, you fight? Like, that's so dangerous." I'm like, "No, like it's way safer than I got way more hurt just skateboarding." Yeah, dude. By far. Or just being an idiot teenager, way more hurt than fighting.
Football. I played football also like in high school, and I probably had more concussions and was hurt worse than I ever have been fighting.
For sure.
I've had one real bad injury fighting. Like, besides like broken hands and the stupid little things
that just happen.
That just happens because.
Okay, so first, second, third between those three, between football, fighting, and riding bikes, and then what was your worst injury for all three?
It's kind of like goes against what I was just saying, but like dirt bikes, like definitely was the most dangerous. I mean, you're like doing
it's most high speed, man.
High speed, and you're wrecking on dirt, and had like that was just I hit my head more doing that than anything. Football, probably a concussion or two.
Yeah.
And then in fighting, it was this one I broke my fibia and tibia in a fight.
Ooh, same time?
Yeah.
Like Anderson Silva floppy style?
No. Like actually, I got hit, and the way I fell, I kind of rolled over my ankle. Like basically, my toes touched the back of my calf. Just the way I fell, and I got a spiral fracture in the fibula. Yep, and then it was an avulsion fracture down here where it just kind of like popped the thing and pulled off the bone. Yeah.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't know, an avulsion fracture, it's like where the ligament attaches to the bone. Basically, the ligament pulls on it so hard it just rips that section of the bone off.
Yeah.
Medical knowledge.
Yeah. So I don't know. Then I had a spiral fracture there, and yeah, that was probably the worst one. But I mean, that one wasn't that bad either. Like they didn't catch the spiral fracture because it was up higher. And when I went to the hospital after the fight, they're like, I told myself my ankle hurts, and they looked at that, and then I was like, it kind of hurts up here, and they just caught that one. And then like my 2-week checkup, I had started a new job working in a coal mine. Yeah. So I'm like in knee deep mud, and it was like, that was fine. Like you can put weight on it. You're not like, it's not like a weight bearing thing. And then my 2-week checkup, I'm like, it still hurts up here, and they get that, and then they, oh yeah, you're fractured up there too, and they put me in this like leg brace. And
for sure. And that's the hard thing with the fibula is because it's non-weight bearing. Like it carries maybe 10% of your weight, so like you can still walk around, you won't even notice it.
Yeah.
And so like military medicine, we always say like, what's the worst fracture you can find on someone? The one you don't find, because that's the one that fucks shit up later on.
Yeah.
And that's a prime example. It happens all the time. Like anytime we're worried about a tib fracture, we immediately check the fibula. We check even down into like the ankle and the knee, because it's like you might have so much pain here, you don't notice everything else going.
Yeah. I still have like mobility issues with that on my ankle, and it's still like a lot fatter. It's like a lot bigger than my other ankle. And that's been in 2016. So years ago.
That's something we still need to work on in the office. Whiskey question now. Let's see. So you said you're not big on tasting notes, so I'll steer away from questions like that. But like, when you're drinking a whiskey, what's the one thing that you taste that you're like, this is why I like whiskey? Like, what's that note? I know, because you originally said you like bourbon when I asked you what type of stuff you're drinking.
Yeah, and that's just like really what I kind of grew up drinking, so that's kind of like what I know. So it's like I don't like to steer away from things I don't know.
Fair.
But I don't know. I like if it's like a smooth whisk. If it's smooth, like that's like my biggest thing. If it's not like just overwhelming.
Yeah,
like, I don't like it too crazy.
Just like you get punched in the face for a living, you don't want your alcohol to punch you in the face.
Absolutely.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's funny because I'm kind of the opposite. Like I love rye because it's so spicy and it's just like gah, and like it burns just a little bit in the back of the throat. I don't know. That's just my thing, but I get it. And then bourbon though, big bourbon fan, just because it is smoother. Like if I'm making cocktails, that's the one. Like, well, I take that back. If I'm day drinking, bourbon cocktails. If I'm night drinking, rye. It's just a little bolder, a little harder.
Yeah, I always have. The wife always makes the cocktails. If not, I
know. She was talking about that, and like I don't know if you've seen my Fancy Friday post. We do cocktails every Friday, so we're gonna have to have you guys over.
Yeah.
And
she'll make some good ones.
That's awesome.
Some mean margaritas and
yeah. So coming out of that childhood of like bike riding and stuff like that, and getting more into fighting. I know we were kind of joking around when we were talking about stuff of like, you know, doing some less than sanctioned fights and more just weird off the rails stuff. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So really like my first fight, Wyoming didn't get an athletic commission until 2012, which way behind most of the United States. And I didn't know any different. I watched some fights like growing up here and there in high school. I was doing my own thing. So I was working in a coal mine in Wyoming, like just working. And one of the guys.
That's why you like Coulter Wall and everything. Like
I was a coal miner, man. Like where I grew up was a small town, Utah. Like we have farms and coal mines. Like that's what you do. You get out of high school, you go into a coal mine, and then you work there for 30, 40 years until you retire, and then you die. Like 5 years later because you had black lung. Like that's what we do. But so I was working up there, and one of the guys I worked with, he was like, hey man, I do jujitsu, and and I was out of shape at the time. I think I was getting ready to have my first kid. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm out of shape. I wrestled in high school. Like, it would be fun. I was like, I'll come do it and get in shape. And this is like a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we go to this guy's house, move his couches out of his living room. Like it was like in this trailer park in Gillette, Wyoming, and we like moved the couch out. We put this little mat down. There was like 2 or 3 of us, and we just wrestled each other, and like I whooped their asses. I was like like a bunch of old fat out of shape guys, and I just worked them over, and I'm like, huh, whatever. And then he's like, so we got this promotion called Ring Wars coming into town on Saturday. You want to fight? I'm like, no, not really. He's like, just do one. You're like, it'd be fun. I'm like, okay. So then I kind of made it like, this is a bucket list thing. I'm gonna I'll do one fight and be done. Yeah, whatever. And then so I was like, I'll do it. So it was just like unsanctioned. I didn't know the rules. Like you had to bring your own gloves. So I went to Big Five and bought some like just some nice little Everlast. Bad boy. There were some bad boy like brand gloves from this Big Five, and then go the weigh-ins at a bar. And this was like should have been the first red flag, but I didn't know it. I didn't know anything. So totally show up there, and the promoter is like, my opponent's not there, and he pulls out his phone, has a video. He's like, hey, well, here's your opponent. And this guy is like, puts his phone, puts his face, I'm so-and-so, back to this little bathroom scale, and shows that he made weight. And he's like, see, he made weight. And I was like, okay, cool. All right. Then we get to the fight. The next day, and I was the first fight of the night, and my opponent wasn't there. Like, I was there. I'm warming up. I think I threw some tape around my hands, like to even wrap them
right. Like just a circle wrap.
And then my opponent showed up about 5 minutes before the fight started, and just like 5-10 minutes showed up. He's wearing basketball shorts. He had this. I just remember he smelled like weed. Like
nice.
Threw on a pair of gloves, no wraps, anything, and we went and fight. No warm up or nothing. And
that's funny.
Right before the fight, one of the other teams there, they had a legit gym. He's like, hey, just so you know, this guy's name is something else, because they told me it was this guy's first fight too. And he's like, just so you know, this guy has been fighting up in Montana and kind of in South Dakota. He's fighting under a fake name because he's in South Dakota, but he's on parole. Oh, so he can't leave the state. Nice. Yeah. So that's why he just showed up, fought, and then right after a fight, right back. So he's like on parole, so he couldn't fight. So he's fighting under a fake name. He's had like 2 or 3 fights before. And yeah, so that's kind of how my introduction to the sport. And I got lucky because the dude came out swinging wild. I didn't know how to throw a punch. I did 0 stand-up strike, and I just double legged him, got him on the ground and punched him and knocked him out. Like
that's
so,
funny,
and like,
man.
and then it was like after that, the other coach hit me up and he's like, "Hey, you should come train with us." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." And I just kind of got hooked and started training every day from like a bucket list. If I would have got my ass kicked that time, I probably would have
never done it.
Never again.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny. Yeah, my stories are same but different. Like mine's are like a weird start. So my grandpa, feel free to have as much as you want. My grandpa, so during World War II, after World War II, we found out that like military wise, we were just getting our asses handed to us by the Japanese every time we would get into hand-to-hand combat. And so once we won, my grandpa was special forces, and they're like, "Hey, we need a group of guys to go to the Kodokan Temple in Okinawa, and like learn Japanese martial arts, so we wouldn't get our asses kicked." And my grandpa was one of those guys, so he was the one that like all of our military hand-to-hand combat stuff was like the stuff that he started that program, and so he was like Kyoshin karate champion. He was an international judo champion, so I learned like very traditional martial arts growing up, and he was like one of my bigger role models. My direct family was kind of like trash, so like he was the one I looked up to. And then there was a Shaolin school that opened up in Reno of all places, and I was like, whatever, let's go check this out. And dude was like, he lived in China for like 10 years and trained at the Shaolin temple and stuff like that. So I was like, well, fuck it, it's pretty cheap. And like it ended up, he was giving me free classes because he was like, he saw potential, and he knew my upbringing and stuff. So he's like, yeah, man, just like come and clean the mats and stuff, and you can just train here. And so like I learned really, really traditional like forms and stuff like that. And then on the weekends, me and my buddies just go beat the shit out of each other. And Reno's a weird town because it's so small, but it's like that's where Gina Carano's from. That's where Ken Shamrock's Lion Den was. So like the OGs back in the day, like a lot of them from referee Mills, like let's get it on. He was from Reno. Like all those guys are from Reno.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there was like a pretty big fight scene there. So it was like I would like by day I would be like this doing traditional martial arts, and I coach that all day long. And then at night I'd just go like same thing, like fights in the back of bars and stuff for cash.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times I didn't even know the names of the guys who were fighting. It was just like, hey, we'll give you $500 if you go bang back here. And it's like, fucking sign me up. Let's go. Yeah, let's do it. I'd do it for free. Like, let's go. And so probably like my first 10 like not street fights, but like fights were just legit like either at like a B-rate like casino and stuff like that, because they would just like pay me, and I was like, yeah, let's go smash.
My favorite one, man. Like,
yeah. And it was super fun. But yeah, that's why when you told me that story, I was like, yeah, kind of same story.
I did 2 fights up there. I did one in Casper, Wyoming, like the next year, and then I moved back to Utah, and it was a whole different world. But yeah, that second fight was the same thing. Like but I trained with a different team. I actually trained for it, and I actually fought with the chick that just fought this last UFC card, just won the bantamweight. Raquel Pennington.
Raquel Pennington?
So she made her pro debut. It was my second amateur fight. She made her pro debut on that card. I fought on the same card as her in Casper, Wyoming, and she fought Kim Couture, which is Randy Couture's ex-wife.
Yeah.
So they fought each other for her pro debut. So I just remember like fighting. And then we had Chris Lieben was the referee.
Dude, Lieben's the man.
He was the referee in my second fight ever. Like he was just like the wildest, like, yeah.
So wild, but like, so I'm sure you watched like when he was on The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
Like everyone just was like when he walked in, everyone's like, there's 0 shot. Like this guy, he wasn't in shape, he wasn't anything, but he just like, I just remember so clearly that treadmill test where they just picked it up, and like he's throwing up and still running. He's just like, fuck, I'm not gonna quit until I die.
He's a zombie, dude. Yeah.
Oh man, he's just such a cool dude.
Referee on my second fight, and then I moved to Utah, and I was like, I think I did like 4 more amateur fights that same year, like just like within like, I don't know, a month. And I was like doing like 4 fights in like 3 months. Like it was just like just back to back and back, and it was just like. But then I got to Utah, and they were like, "Oh, you got to get blood work, and you got to do like
all these things to make sure your T levels."
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, I was like, this is crazy. I got to test if I got AIDS or or hepatitis.
It's weird going state to state. Like some states, California used to be super liberal on stuff like that. Like you could walk in and like they didn't give 2 shits about anything.
Really?
Yeah. So like
I think they're probably like one of the strictest now, right?
They are one of the strictest now. But like Vegas, because of Vegas, Nevada was always like an early adopter of like there's a lot of rules here. So like growing up, like I'm talking like 2006, 2007, 2008, we would go to Cali when it was like we don't really want to fuck with the rules today.
Right.
We would just go over there because there were literally like you would do stuff in the Bay Area. And I remember doing like tournaments where 16 dudes would walk in. You would have no clue who anyone was. They were shipping people over from Thailand just as like ringers and stuff. And like you'd be sitting next to each other like this, talking. They'd be like, "Hey, you guys got to fight." We're like, "All right, dude, let's go."
Yeah.
And we would just go get in like all like again maybe a circle wrap on the hand, and you go fight. And you jack each other up, and then sit back down next to each other and be like, "Man, I really liked how you did this or that." And like, it was the weirdest thing in California. Oh, yeah. Like Oakland was where it was at. We had some fun, and there was UFC fighters that like would show up that are now like bigger names that like I don't want to say any names because I don't know if they have it even on their records, but they would show up just for like extra cash.
I believe it. Yeah, I mean. Yeah, like Jeremy Horn. He's a dude's had 200 fights, and then he's had more fights than he's shows. Like weight, like I don't know. I used to go down in Price where I grew up. They'd have something called the Coal Miners Brawl, and it was a tough man competition. So you'd have all these guys from the coal mines that would sign up just to fight, like these tough guys. Yeah. And then you'd have a guy from like that lived up here in Salt Lake or something named Hank Wise. That one comes by name like. He was like the tough guy back in the day, and he would just come down and beat the shit out of everybody. Like it was like
leaving it.
He just go down there and like fight like 3 times in one night and just beat up everybody. Like all these coal miner dudes that are just like they just work for a living, never train. They're just like we're tough. Let's go fight. Fight each other. And then Hank Wise would just come down and beat the shit out of everybody. He was like the local legend back in the day. But yeah, even Utah was crazy when I first started fighting. Like now it's like we have one of the best athletic commissions.
I think so too.
Like Scott Buller's done a lot of work, like everything. But I remember before it, I did my first amateur fight, and it was down in Price, and it was in a boxing ring. And he does boxing, a lot of boxing with Flash. I don't remember what his promotion was called, but his name was Flash, and he was like a kickboxing champ.
Okay.
But he has his own promotion. He still does boxing fights and
nice
kickboxing fights here in Salt Lake. But is in this boxing ring, and this dude. We show up and I called on this. He had put up flyers. Mm-hmm. And you see a flyer and like, hey, you want to fight? Call this number. So like, all right. So I called the number. He's like, yeah, man, I got you a fight. All right, cool. Yeah, I got you. And then he'd text back and forth with you, and he'd have a fight for you. And then we show up to the weigh-ins, and there's a bunch of people there, and he's like, well, had us lined up kind of thing. He's like, how much you weigh? How much you weigh?
And, yeah, we'll go that one.
And like I got told that I was gonna fight at 185 pounds. So I didn't want to cut weight as an amateur. So when I first started pro, I started cutting to 170, which stupid. I wish I would have had better.
It's a hard cut.
Yeah. So amateur, I fought 185 because they ain't paying me. I ain't cutting weight, So I fought at 185. I didn't really cut much weight for it. But I remember weighing in at 186, and then he has this guy step on the scale, and he was like 174. But the dude had his shoes on, clothes.
So it's like 170 tops.
Yeah. And so then my friend, his name was Cy Nelson, he got told he was fighting at 170. So he actually cut weight and like killed himself, made 170. And then his opponent that he had originally, the guy weighed in at like 185. So, but he was like, how much you weigh? How much you weigh? And I was like, how about I fight that guy that's 185 and him fight? He's like, no, we already got you. So I end up fighting this like local guy. He comes to me before the fight and he's like, yeah, dude, let's have a good fight. Like being nice to me, which I don't want to do. Like, I'm like, I want to hurt you right now.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
we'll be friends after, but like right now. But the dude was like already beaten. Like he was like, but he
knew.
Yeah. But talking to him, like dude's never fought, never trained. He was like a local tough guy from Price that like got in a lot of street fights.
Yeah.
So I can.
We all know how those.
Yeah. So I know. Like I just remember like getting him on the ground, like mounting him, and I like he went like this, and I just like punched. I didn't even hit him hard because I felt bad. Like I didn't want to hurt him, and the ref stopped it, and I was just like, and then I had people like, "What the hell, bro? Why are you taking it easy? You should have hurt him." You know, because casual fan wants to see blood. You know. Like,
of course.
But that was like that was the wild stuff, and like I remember that fight. He just lined us up and was like, "How much you weigh? How much you weigh? All right, you two fight each other." I'm like, "The hell?"
Yeah, I can't say I've ever had one like that. That's for sure.
Yeah, it was wild. It was the craziest thing. But I didn't know any different back then, and now it's like now Utah has like one of the best athletic commissions. And
yeah.
Like when I went and fought in New Jersey, even like they were like their medical, like you said, going state to state is so hard. Flew out to New Jersey, and it was just like the medicals. Utah, we do HIV, hepatitis B and C. You do your physical, you fight. Like out there, you have to get an eye test. You have to get your eyes dilated. You have to get like an EKG. You have to get the MRI in your head, like everything. It was like so it was like all fight week. That's all I was doing out there. I just flew out there and was just like, get my eyes. I don't know if you ever got your eyes dilated. It's 100%. Like, you can't.
Yeah, you can't do anything.
You can't do anything for a whole day. So I'm like trying to cut weight, and I can't even like see and like.
Yeah,
it was different.
I remember doing a. Where were we? We were in Miami. I think we were in Miami. So they have a bunch too. And the athlete I was with, something went wrong with the appointment that was supposed to be on Monday for eyes and stuff like that. And then our like press workout was supposed to be Wednesday. But for some reason, that appointment didn't go wrong. So we had to push it till Tuesday. And his eyes were still like halfway dilated on the press workout. And he's like, bro, with all the lights, I can't see shit. I was like, and he's a boxer, so he can't even be like, dude, we'll just grapple. It'll be fine. And he's trying to hit pads. He's missing half of them.
Oh, man.
It was the funniest shit in the world. And everyone was like, what is going on? Like, this is the worst he's ever looked. And he just got up, he's, still stone cold face, like, yeah, man, I killed that. And we're all just like, I don't know what to do right now.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything. Yeah, I remember it was the first time I ever had it done. And I just remember like, I'm like trying to read text messages. I'm trying to like talk to my management about like, they're supposed to be sending me like shorts and like to the hotel. And I'm like, I can't read anything. I can't do it. Like, it was miserable.
That's so it's funny. Like when I talk to people about my job, I'm like, yeah, man, like I train them and then, we'll go for fight week, and it's pretty cool. Like getting to work with like Badu and Shane and stuff like that. Like we get to fly all over the place, like Miami. They're like, oh, that's cool. You got to go to Miami for a week. I'm like, dude, fight week is such a circus when you're on a level like that. Like your day is booked all day long, every day of just shit you don't want to do, all the way up to the fight.
Yeah, I got a taste of that with the BKFC.
Yeah,
because they're a bigger promotion, and it was for me. I work a full-time job. Like I'm lucky to get like a training session in a day, right? And it's a sacrifice, but some of these guys, I think that's their job. So like that's what I do. So for me, I'm trying to juggle a full-time job, and they're like, oh, hey, by the way, you got to be at this press conference. I'm like, we're putting you on stage. Like there was me and Ben Mo were the only two local guys that they put up on like with the press conference. So it's going live at this time, and like it was just like the craziest experience. So then I'm having to like work, and I'm like, oh, tell my work I got to leave early. I got to go do this, and like it's just like it was a circus, like you said. There's like you leave there, and you got to be at the hotel for do pictures and media workouts, and then
sign 100 posters.
Yeah, it was just like wild. I'm like, man, if I was like a full-time fighter, it'd be different. But like, man, I got a job. I can't just like, this ain't paying the bills for me. So like,
for sure.
It was so wild.
What do you think it's going to take to pay the bills? Like to get it to where fighting is the main job.
It's such a hard sport because it's being noticed at the right time with the right fight and getting the right opportunities with the right people.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's no like set path to it.
There's not
a set path. Like where like, like if you're going to go play in the NFL, it's like, okay, I'm a badass in high school. I get recruited to a college.
And then I go to the combine.
And I can have this, like I can get, it's not that way. It's like, I've had a bunch of fights where I've been to the level, like I've been to that top level, and I fell short on those fights. And then that person goes to the UFC or to Bellator, and then I got to start back over. And it's just like the wrong time. And like all those, not all of them, but 99% of those fights were short notice, bad opportunities that I shouldn't have taken the fight anyways, you know, like fighting Sean Brady, like dudes, I'm sure you've heard of Sean Brady. Like he's number 6 or 7 in the UFC right now.
Yeah.
In the world. He's like ranked number 6 or 7. His only loss is Bilal Muhammad.
Yeah.
Like that fight, like my management called me and they're like, hey, you want to go fly out to New Jersey and fight this Sean Brady guy? I'm like, I don't know. Like his opponent fell out. Like it's a great opportunity. It's main event. It's for a belt. It's for CFFC. It's going to be played on CBS Sports. I'm like, sounds cool to me. Like, right. Like I didn't have like, so then I go out there out of shape off the couch and I was still training, but not like fight training.
Not a camp. Not a camp. Camp is different.
It's like, different. Yeah. And you know, so you fly to New Jersey, you do the medicals, you do all this stuff. And like, I still was competitive. Like you can argue that I won that first round, like striking the dude's grappler, stuffed all his takedowns, outstruck him. And then second round, I was gas tired. And for some reason I tried to shoot on him because I'm a wrestler. So I'm like,
why not?
Even though I'm beating him, like you just make stupid decisions when you're tired.
Yeah.
And he ended up choking me out. And then he fights 1 or 2 more fights and he's in the UFC. And then now he's like number 7. I'm like, how would that went if I would have been full camp?
Totally.
Right?
Totally full camp or like a lot of times if you're on that like cusp level right there, like we pretty much always in camp and we're just waiting to get a call.
Right.
So you can peak for that. And the hard part is like a lot of times managers in fighting are the shittiest managers on earth, I think. Like they're trying to find one cash cow and they're trying to find a bunch of people to screw over to make a quick buck. Right. And it's so hard like that. Like that's possibly a fight that they should have been like, no, we're this is a big name and it would be a good opportunity if we were at 100%, but we're not.
Yes.
You know, and it sucks.
If I was smart, I would have listened to like coaches. Like at that time, I had fought like locally most of my fights. And then I went out to Pueblo, Colorado. Like it was ghetto out there. I remember Pueblo. I fought Pueblo. It was LFA. Yeah. And they put me on like, I was the first fight on like the televised part on Access TV. And I fought this he was like a 3-time All-American D1 wrestler. Okay. And I ended up losing a split decision, but it was a fight I won. Like we can go back and watch the fight. It's on UFC Fight Pass. Like I beat that dude. It was kind of a stupid fight. Like it was probably the worst fight I've ever been in. Like I was worried. I was so in my head about this guy being a wrestler. So like can't get taken down because he'll beat me there, which I wrestle with D1 wrestlers in the gym all the time and I whoop their ass. Yeah, like it's a different sport. Yeah, it's a different thing. And so like I chased this guy around the ring for 3 rounds. And every time I would throw a punch, he would shoot on me. I would stuff his takedown. We'd get back up. And then I would just follow him around the ring. Somehow they gave him a split decision in his hometown. Yeah. I had the fans coming up after like, dude, fuck that. You won the fight.
Weird. His hometown.
Yeah. Yeah. You won the fight. Yeah. You won the fight. Like that's bullcrap, whatever. Yeah. Like his fans, you know. And but then I had a guy, Mark Montoya, who's Factory X Muay Thai out in Denver. Okay. They're one of the, I mean, they have a bunch of UFC fighters. Like Brandon Royval just fought for the 125 belt. Okay. Anthony Smith is out there. Gotcha. Just a bunch of killers. So he hit me up and was like, hey, like we think like we was at those fights, like we think you'd be like a great addition to our team. Come try it out for a week. So I went out there for a week, tried it. And I mean, I have kids at this time, trying to support a family. I end up quitting so I go out there and I was like, this is awesome. I said, this is how I need to be to make it to that next level. Yeah. So I quit my job, go out there. So it was just like a struggle financially, right? Like you're trying to train full time like this. It was just, and then, you know, we get that opportunity to fight Sean Brady and my coach is like, it's bad. Like, don't do it. Like, we're not going to do this. And I'm like, that time I'm like, I need money.
And this is a quick way to make money.
Quick way to make money. It's a good opportunity. It's on TV. Like, it's the biggest fight I've ever been in. Like, I'm like, we're doing it. He's like, I don't think it's a good idea. We shouldn't do it. But I was dumb. And I'm like, I need to do it because I got to pay rent in like 2 weeks. So I need the money. Right. So I took those opportunities for like financial reasons instead of like, if I was smart, I would have listened to him and trusted the process and like boom, because that was like the best training I've ever had in my life.
For sure.
Like, it was so good.
And that's really the crux of fighting, right? So like we generally don't get into fighting because we come from a great background and lots of money, right? It's usually we come from a bad background in the streets, and that's why we start fighting. And then you get these like, I don't want to say lucky people, but people where like someone in their family made it through fighting, so they have enough money to pay for all the right things. And then they get these like great opportunities. But the rest of us just like, dude, I need to eat food. Like, I hate to say it, but Devin Haney is one of those, right? Like he's good. He could be, I may be great in boxing. But he's just got so much money funneled into him that it was easy to be like, dude, we're going to pay for your first 10 fights in Mexico where we can just like pay this dude to fall down and shit like that. Like now we have this name and you have the look because you're walking around with all the drip and stuff like that. And now we can gate you in this way. But it's like the rest of us are just trying to fight to fucking feed ourselves, man. Right. And like, it's a hard call because it's like, it is that. It's like, look, I get this isn't a great decision for me, but I also get that I need to feed my family.
Yeah.
And that sucks. That's a hard decision.
It is hard.
It's a hard decision.
Yeah. Same time though, I've had some great life experiences. Like getting to travel, 100%. I get to go to New Jersey. I get to go like, have a weekend there where I never would have traveled outside of Utah if I didn't have these opportunities. They're like
100%.
A paid trip. And so like for me now, it's like the older I get, the smarter I get. And like now I'm like, okay, I have a few years left, like in my prime, like totally. I'm 33 years old. Like I always read like people say, depending on certain, you know, it's everybody's different, but 35, 36, you're probably like getting to that age where you're kind of starting to decline. So like
as a 36-year-old, I disagree.
Okay. But, you know, like that's what I've always heard. So I'm like, okay, I got a couple good years where I can push really hard without like, and then we'll go from there and see where we're at. So, because I quit fight, I retired. Like
did you?
Yeah. So it was like I fought this Kyle Stewart dude. I fought him. That's when I broke my leg in. It was a 7-second fight. We came in. I knew he had a big right hand. He's gonna throw it, and so I always fight like I'm always like a distance fighter. Like I'm gonna counter, boom.
Totally.
This fight, I was like, I know he's gonna throw that. So our game plan was, I was like, I'm gonna slip this right hand, and then counter there. Boom. I slipped that right hand. He kind of threw it a little wider. I thought I ran right into it. The way I fell, I broke my leg. Yeah, it was a 7-second fight. I broke my leg in the fight, and then he went to the UFC right after that fight. He went in. He did 4 fights in the UFC. So that was in 2016, I believe, or something like that. And then 2019 coming, I went to Denver. All this stuff. I lost to Sean Brady. I came back. I'm not really training. Like, actually, I was going through the police academy.
Oh shoot!
Yeah, so I'm doing that. And the promoter called me and he's like, hey, do you want to fight Kyle Stewart? Like he just got cut from the UFC. It's his first fight out of the UFC. He's like looking for a fight pretty bad. I was like, yeah, I want that fucking rematch.
Like, for sure.
He like that fight would not go that way, right?
Yeah.
Like I broke my leg. Like I want that fight back. So this is 4 weeks out from the fight. I literally went and trained twice. Like I was like, you know what? Like in my mind, I'm like, I know how to fight. I've got all this training. I'm just going to get in really good shape. So I'm going through the police academy. So like I was working my ass off. Like I was in great shape. I went to the pit with Ramsey.
Yeah. Ramsey.
Twice. And I lived 2 hours away down in Price. So I would, twice. So I would drive up there on like a Saturday, train with them guys, and then drive back home. But it was like the days off from the police academy. So I did it twice. So I trained literally twice where I went and sparred. That's all we did was sparred. But other than that, I was just got in really good shape. Went out there, and I ended up getting knocked out again. Like it wasn't 7 seconds; it was like a little longer. And I actually landed some good shots, and I put on a competitive fight. But
with like, a full camp,
but like a full camp and actually training and then he goes right into Bellator after that. Like I'm like,
and that's the hardest thing is like.
Bad
decisions and like I don't know like growing up we kind of talked about it. Like I I had a really bad childhood. Like I didn't have parents that were role models. My whole family was really abusive. So the only time I ever felt like that it was an even playing field was through physicality. So like I was always training. Like I remember having like just fucking burlap sacks tied up in the garage that I would just fucking hit and stuff like that. And then like we had stuff in the backyard to like it was like a glam beam from a house, like a brace for a house and some chicken wire, and I'd pull that back and forth like a sled to like level out the yard. But really I was like, I just need to do grunt work. I was training all the time. And so it's hard when I see athletes where they're and this isn't like to you at all, but like,
well, it probably is a little bit. Like, I mean, it probably, yeah.
I know athletes where like, well, I'm not in camp. I don't have anything lined up, so I'm not going to train. In my head, I've always been like, I always want to be harder to kill. Like I haven't stopped training since I was fucking 8 years old.
Right.
Like I'm always just on it, and like we joke about it all the time on my podcast. Like I have the genetics of a Toyota Corolla. I don't have good genetics. You look at my entire family, no one is fit. And I have to just like work harder to stay like somewhat in shape, you know, but it's like when I see athletes who are like, oh no, I don't have a camp coming up, so I'm like 50 pounds overweight and this and that, and I'm not in camp. I'm like, dude, always be ready, because when shit like that happens,
you're ready.
You need to be somewhat ready to just get in there and bang, because like I'm just trying to be harder to kill every day, not just on one day where I have a fight. I like, if anything happens, I want to be harder to kill.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, it blows my mind sometimes. Like when I see really high level athletes, I've had people that are in the Olympics that can't stand on one foot and balance for 30 seconds. It's like, that's a basic life skill. Like how the fuck can't you do that? But it's, for me, it's like, obviously that's what we need to work on, because that's what I've done my whole life. But that's not actually like the norm for high level athletes. A lot of athletes like yourself, like you have so much going on. It's hard to be able to do all the things all the time. And I get it now, the more that I've talked to people that are in that position. But like growing up for me, it was always like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Why don't you just like sleep less, do this, you know, like, but it's tough. I get it. It's,
well, for me growing up, I'm like kind of the opposite. Like not opposite. Like the older I get now, like, so growing up, like I was the athletic kid. Like
totally.
I was like really athletic.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in small town Utah. Like I think my high school had 400 and something kids total. That's 9th through 12th grade. Like we were a small school.
That was almost my graduating class.
That's what I'm saying. That was our whole school. So yeah, like my wife jokes, right? She grew up in San Diego, so like,
oh yeah, crazy.
Yeah. So she had like, so I'm like, 400 kids. I couldn't name every kid in my school and like my class, like, so I was always super athletic compared to everybody. So like, I didn't have to try. Like playing football, I no matter what, from freshman to I was a starter because of in football. Wrestling, I was always varsity. Like I was just athletic, and I got by with that. So yeah, I didn't like, I just got by with athleticism.
Totally,
and like, and then once I, you know, and I lost, like, I was a mediocre high school wrestler, like, you know, 5th or 6th in state, like never took state, never did anything. But once I started fighting, like it switched gears for me. And I'm like, oh, like now then I work my ass off.
You have to
like,
take
I'm
it
like,
seriously.
I took it serious, and it was like my life. So that's like been my life for the last 15 years, like work my ass off for it. And then now I'm like fighting guys, and I'm in the gym with guys that are D1 wrestlers that are all Americans. And we did like, so we're helping coach this team, this Ravage wrestling team. Okay. They're out of Harriman, like they're a youth wrestling team, and they're like national champs. Like these kids, like 10 years old, and their records are like 150-3. Like these kids are like going like all over the United States. So like helping coach his team. They have kids that, like, I remember this kid coming in, he wrestled for Harriman, and he was a 4-time state champ, 9th through 12th grade, like 200 whatever pounds. And he got a full ride scholarship to Oklahoma State or something. Now he wrestles for like Western Wyoming or somewhere. But he's like a D1 athlete, 4-time state champ, and like, hey, will you get some work in because you're about the same size as him? And so we did a freestyle match. I never wrestled freestyle one time. Folk style was all I ever did wrestling. I don't know the rules for freestyle. Like I know they're different, well, yeah, I'll wrestle with him. And we did a full match, 3 rounds, and I beat the kid 6-0. And I'm like,
dang,
a 32-year-old dude.
Yeah.
And I'm beating him. And all the coaches are like, where'd you wrestle? I'm like, Emory High. Like,
yeah.
We're in college. I'm like, yeah, I didn't go. And like, so I'm like, but just from like, I took it serious, and so I'm like, what could have I have done if I would have
if you really took it seriously?
I would have took it serious, right?
Yeah.
So like, now I'm like older. I'm like almost like past like where if I would have done this shit when I was like that age, like I was that super athlete and like do all this, but I just didn't care about it. I was like, oh, I can get by, like whatever. Let's go party and do whatever. And now,
for sure.
Now with fighting, it's kind of like switch that, and like I've got by with a lot of my fights just being athletic and good, and that's. Like I took like after that, that's where I was getting at with I retired. Like I fought that Kyle Stewart guy and didn't really train, and I lost again. I'm like, this ain't worth it. Like I talked to him after. He's like, yeah, dude, I like work as a bouncer as this club, and then I train 3 times a day. And I'm like,
I used to bounce actually.
I'm like, damn, dude, like I'm lucky. I work 60 hours a week. I'm lucky to get an hour training session a day. Like I can't compete with these athletes that are like putting all this extra work in and doing.
It's hard.
I have a hard time doing this. So I was like, I'm done fighting. And then I went through a divorce, went through all this bullshit in my life. A bunch of crazy stuff happened. And now you're remarried. And then my wife now is like, she's a fighter. She's
super supportive of it.
She's like, let's go.
Hanging out here with us right now.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Managing the baby. If you've heard the baby squeaks at all.
Yeah. So she's like, let's go get back in shape. And
hell yeah.
And I had met her like a long time ago, but I was married to someone else. We trained at the same gym, whatever. And then, later in life, here we are. And she's like, let's go get back in shape. We'll go train. So she introduced me to Jeremy Horn. We go to that gym. 3 months later, I'm fighting again. And I'm like, just like I'm like, oh, this is, and it's just been a different, like, and she's been super supportive. Like, I'm like, fuck.
It's your second chance, man.
Yeah. Like since I've been there, I did 3 MMA fights. Like I came back, I took 2.5 years off. I didn't train once. Like all I did was lift weights. I got up to like 230 pounds, 237 pounds. I'm like benching like 405 pounds, just a meathead. And then I go to the gym and just like gas out with like 7 seconds.
That's a lot of
I threw like 7
pull.
punches and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm like, but then now we're back fighting. I'm 3-0 and like I beat like Jerome, dude, was like
Jerome's a monster, man, and
it was an easy fight for me, but like the mentality that
so good, man.
Yeah, the mentality I had going into it is just like now I'm having fun with it, and that's what I needed the whole time. I needed to go in and like I put so much pressure on myself, like oh fuck, if I got to win this fight because I got to feed my family, and like I put all this pressure, and then you lose, and you're just like fuck, this is so hard. Like I can make money easier, different ways, and like So then like now we're to the point like that BKFC fight, like. It was kind of a side quest. Like I'm an MMA fighter. It was a side quest, right? It was like a side quest.
Please tell me you're a video game guy.
Yeah,
Yes.
So it's like a side quest. So I'm like, okay, this BKFC, they hit me up. Like I'm the guy in Utah right now that sells the tickets. So obviously they're gonna I sell a lot of tickets. So I get on their card. I probably didn't train like I should have. I'm like, oh, it's 2-minute rounds. Like I was gas tired after 1 round, and then I'm just like, holy shit. And then my wife's like, and I'm like, I need to do something different. We got to get this, because I did do strength and conditioning. I did have coaches when I was out in Denver. Since I moved back to Utah, I just do my own thing. I'm like, I'll go to the gym. If I can spar 5 rounds, I'm good.
Pulling the Sean Strickland method.
Yeah, and so then it's been super supportive. So then when like I started working with you, and she's just so supportive of it, and just like, that's what you need. Let's push it. Let's go for the next couple of years and like just see where it goes.
Yeah.
That's kind of where like
it's gonna go the right direction. I feel it. Like when you get a second chance like that and you understand it's a second chance, like it really does change things, And and like I don't know, I'm stoked to be a part of the journey, because like I've even talked to a bunch of the guys in Vegas about like when we met and stuff. I was like, dude, this guy, he's got a different mentality. He's like, he's there for it and stuff like that. And I get really excited when I see it, because it's hard to find someone that's like mentally locked in. And it's either like, yeah, I kind of do this on the side, or like they think they're bigger than they are. And you're like right in that Goldilocks spot where it's like, okay, I know I need to do more, but I know I'm doing like as much as I can, and we can really like evolve you into something even more than you already are, and you're already fucking great, you know, like you've been on that cusp. And I think it's just a matter of time before it's like a couple big knockouts, and then, you know, UFC or Bellator or PFL or something.
I've been on that
right at that cusp, man.
I mean, like, I can't even tell you the last time that I wasn't in a main event spot in Utah. Like, that's my last co-main or remote. Like, I've fought for titles, and like, it's just, I've been that guy for 10 plus years. Like, and now it's like time to like show why, you know, like not just because I sell the tickets and like people want to see me fight. It's like, because
you can fight.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Because if I fight like any local guy that I fought, it's been pretty much light work. It's like easy. Like, it's the fights that I get like in my head where I got to go to New Jersey and I got to go fight this guy that's coming. Like, I'm like, oh shit, that guy's a full-time fighter. Oh no. Like, but
full-time fighters all used to be part-time fighters. You just need to remember that, man. Like, every full-time fighter was once a part-time fighter.
Yeah.
And they took that one extra step over, and that's, you know, that's it. You know, so yeah. How do you actually like this, by the way?
It's good.
It's pretty good.
It's good.
It's not bad. Okay. Pit Viper, you nailed it.
So it's weird. Like, I get like, if I start drinking a lot of whiskey, I'll get like blotches all over my skin.
Oh, you get the Asian blotch, huh?
So so it was legit. Like, I asked the doctor one time. I was like, I went to this doctor and I was like, dude, like every time I drink, I get like, and they get bad. Like, they'll get like protruding out of my skin. He's like, are you you have like Asian? I'm like, bro, I'm like a red-haired.
Look at me.
Like, I'm a red-haired like giant like Neanderthal, bro. Like, do I look like I'm Asian?
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah.
He's like, that's just like really common with.
It's called Asian flush.
Yeah. So I do have that. Yeah.
That's
like,
funny.
It's crazy. Like, I did my like
DNA test. The 23andMe.
Yeah, I did the So I did all that and like.
No Asian.
No. It's just like mostly like the Viking countries and Northwestern Europe and Scottish and German, like really like.
So I grew up with all Asians, like between like traditional
so
martial arts.
So that's a real thing. Like,
dude,
they drink and they just get like, I get that too.
100%. Yeah, like I grew up with all Filipinos, Japanese, and Chinese, like all my until I was like 18.
Okay.
In high school, I was actually the vice president of the Asian American club as a fucking white guy. Like, I have zero Asian in me. I just grew up with all Asians, so they all were just like, yeah, you're part of us now. So very familiar with the Asian flush. But 1 out of 10. What do you give the Whistle Pig?
I like it. It's good. I haven't tried this one, but I think if you get Whistle Pig, it's probably gonna be pretty solid whiskey.
100%. Let's go one more whiskey question. So, let's make this a fun one because we're both a little buzzed now. I can see it in your eyes. If whiskey was a superhero, what superpower would whiskey have?
I would say like probably like invisibility.
Invisibility,
like, dude. Like, because when I drink whiskey, I will do some dumb shit like that like I would never do if people were around, right? Like, so I'm like invisible to the world. Like, I'll do some dumb shit.
Yeah, that's fair. Invisibility.
Yeah.
But it's like like the superhero thinks they have invisibility, but they really don't.
Yeah. So I'm like invisible, but everyone can still see me. I'm like, I'll say like that.
God, what was that old superhero movie? There was an old movie.
Invincibility too. Yeah, like
Invincibility too.
That's absolutely a good one because you
feel invincible.
You don't feel anything. Like, you
I wish I could remember the movie right now, but there was an old movie like in the 90s where there was a bunch of like B-rate superheroes, and there was a dude that had invisibility as long as no one looked at him. It was like, that's kind of it. And everyone thought he was bullshitting.
Are you even invisible if no one looked at you? Like,
well, but like really, he could get past cameras and shit. And that was the thing. He was like, no, no one can look at me and I'm invisible. And everyone thought he was lying until he like snuck past all the sensors and cameras because no one looked at him.
Yeah.
I fucking wish I could remember the name of that movie, but it was so funny.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
So at the end of our podcast, we ask everyone the same 3 questions. They're kind of rapid fire. So we'll shoot them off, answer them right off of the cuff, and then we'll keep moving. Cool? Favorite athlete of all time and why?
What's the... no, you're like... I was thinking about earlier. What's the UFC fight? Like, he fought in the UFC back in the day. He fought in Japan.
This is what happens when you drink and podcast.
All right, I'm going to go with Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods.
Dude's like... He's a hell of a golfer.
Yeah.
He's obviously good with the ladies.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like, so, like,
yeah.
Legend.
He's won more than I think any golfer. He's taken probably more tea than any golfer.
Oh,
dude is jacked.
Jacked. He had 7 mistresses without any of them knowing about each other. Like,
in this day and age, that's like basically impossible.
Legend.
Yeah.
Legend.
Favorite exercise of all time and why?
Exercise?
Or workout. Probably chest day.
Yeah,
I know it's not standing on one foot.
Not one. Yeah, I can't stand on one foot for. It was like 3 seconds on my left foot, but yeah, probably chest day. I like the bench press. It makes you feel tough. You're a man if you're in the gym and you can bench press a lot. Yeah, chest day. Like, I like bench press.
I hate bench press.
I love bench
because I got like you, so I'm surprised. I have like gorilla length arms, so bench just is so much range of motion. I would much prefer deadlift because I feel like it's shorter.
I'll have to send you. I'll have to send you. So I sent you that video with our little spoof video we did where I was like dancing and whatever. So we actually did a real one. That was just like this guy trying to build his portfolio for videography stuff. And
yeah.
So we did that one. I was like, well, we got this fight coming up. It was for LFA actually. I'm like, let's just be goofy.
Yeah.
Like, whatever. But no, that was for when I fought Kyle Stewart the last time. But the other one was for LFA, and it was like a legit one. Yeah, and I like it. Just like, I don't deadlift or anything. Like, my back has always been strong and like, you know,
very strong. And
it was like all these guys in there, these meatheads, and they're all way bigger than me, and they were deadlifting like 400 something. And I was like, let's throw it was like 500 pounds, like 505. Like, it was like, and it was a video, and I did it just, and I was, you know, 185 pounds, you know, like, it was just like, so deadlift's probably like my strongest.
But you enjoy bench.
I do bench. You're right. I do have long arms, but I've also always had like a good chest too. So I've always been able to bench quite a bit. So
right on. Cool.
It makes you feel cool if you can like throw 2 plates on and like rep it for 10 times. Yeah. It was like, what's up?
For sure. And the last question for everyone listening, if you could tell them one piece of advice to help them become a better human, what would you tell
them? Just trust the process, trust the journey. Don't focus on results. Don't focus on results. Just trust the process, enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest thing for me, that I've focused on results. Like, I have to win, and then you're going to be heartbroken a lot. If you trust the process and and don't focus on the results, you're going to have a good time.
Absolutely. Well, for everyone listening, thanks for tuning in. It's been fun. Mike, where can we find you if we want to follow you on any social media? And then we'll also plug the fight too.
Yeah, all social media is like Mike Jones. I think my Instagram's like MikeyJ185.
We'll tag it in the comments.
I can't remember. It might be 170, 185.
We're trying to get better at the social media.
Yeah, I'm the worst at social media. I literally use social media to promote fights.
Yeah.
And everything and then other than that, I was gonna delete all social media at one time, not do it, but I keep it to promote fights and sell tickets. So.
Totally. And look out for, so we're doing a video docu-series called The Agogi. Mike's going to be a big part of that too. So it's all of our fighters in the PR tribe that as they're getting ready for fights. So we're going to be kind of gating into that. And it's going to be a fun look inside of your training, at least the parts that we're doing. And we might follow you around with some sparring and stuff, but look out for that too. And then we also fight April 20th. Yeah.
We're fighting down at UVU. We're going to be the main event.
Yeah.
Be defending the belt.
Absolutely.
Guy from Florida. Let's go.
Hell yeah. So he's flying a whole long way from Florida just to get his ass kicked.
Hell yeah.
We're going to have the whole fucking PR tribe there to have Mike's back. It's going to be a great day. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And always forward, never settle. Now go become a better human. Mike, thanks for coming on, my guy.
My man.
Sweet. Good shot.